Episode 4 of Pluribus sneaks up on its themes in the most unsettling way. What begins as another chapter of Carol poking at the hive mind ends up transforming into a full-blown exploration of flawed systems, blind trust, scientific ethics, and the one thing Pluribus keeps circling back to: agency. Whose agency matters? What counts as consent? And who decides the definition of better when the entire world is suddenly unified under one smiling, humming voice? This episode expands everything the series has been building: Carol's desperation, the hive mind's unnerving purity, and the growing moral darkness creeping under the surface. But episode 4 also pulls off something clever. It shows us that Pluribus, despite its bright smiles, is not a perfect machine. It reacts, it hurts, and it might be capable of losing far more than it understands. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. Let's break down everything that happens, how the episode deepens the story, and what that brutal ending means for Carol, Zosia, and the world of Pluribus.
What's happening?
She's dying, Carol. She's in cardiac arrest.
Manusos Oviedo, the man more anti-hive than Carol herself. The episode begins by slipping backward in time. We're not in the current timeline, but likely a day before Carol originally reached out to Manusos. In this window, we finally learn who he is and why he absolutely despises the hive mind more fiercely than Carol ever has. Manusos is introduced surrounded by old radio equipment, a timer clicking beside him as he painstakingly tracks frequencies. This isn't a hobby. It's a discipline built from decades of living by strict principles. He's a man who once ran a storage facility with rules so meticulous that you could practically hear him counting pennies in his head. To Manusos, order and personal responsibility aren't just values, they're survival. But the world has changed. Supply has vanished. Hunger is everywhere. And the hive mind offers unlimited resources. Yet Manusos refuses even a crumb from them. He'd rather starve than accept something tainted with the idea of losing his individuality. That's why the dog food scene hits so hard. Watching him scrape out the last bits of the can, gagging but pushing through, shows us the kind of man he is: unyielding, stubborn, and painfully human. And then the moment comes, the first call from Carol. She's overly polite, unsure, trying to keep him calm. But to Manusos, politeness sounds like a trap. Her voice feels wrong. It feels like them. So he rejects her outright, slamming down the call. Which is why Carol calling back just to curse at him becomes the funniest and most important character beat of the episode. That's the moment he finally believes she's real. The hive mind doesn't curse at strangers, but Carol does. And Manusos lights up inside. Suddenly he's not alone in the world. There's someone like him out there, and that's all he's ever needed. Proof that he's not fighting a losing war alone.
Helen, think of the Waikaro books.
Carol, you expressly told us.
Carol's whiteboard moment. Can the hive mind actually not lie? After leaving the hospital, Carol returns to her ravaged home only to find a cheerful group cleaning up the grenade wreckage, including the mayor she voted for. Except, of course, he's not a singular mayor anymore. He's everyone. This episode makes it clear that Carol is finally thinking strategically. She wants to fight back, but to do that, she must understand the hive mind's rules. And rule number 1 on her whiteboard is the question she's been circling for days.
This is me happy.
Is the hive mind truly incapable of lying? Enter Larry. Larry is one of those characters who could have been a small joke, but in Pluribus, he becomes a beautifully strange window into the mind of the collective. Carol starts interrogating him with increasing skepticism, trying to find a falsehood that will break their "we do not lie" rule. But Larry's answers only get weirder. He says he had many friends. Carol doubts it. He says he loves her books. Carol really doubts that. This triggers one of the most unexpectedly emotional sequences of the episode. Larry quotes Carol's passages with uncanny precision, almost reverently. Not because the hive mind thinks her writing is high art, but because those stories saved people. Literally. For someone like Moira from Kansas City, Carol's books were the one warm thread she was hanging on to before she joined the collective. Carol never saw her work that way. She mocked her own writing often. Even Helen, her wife, gave her gentle lies to protect her feelings. And when Carol demands the truth about Helen's real opinion, Larry reluctantly reveals it. Helen believed Carol's books were harmless. Not brilliant, not life-changing, just harmless. It's brutal, and it confirms the hive mind's greatest power, unwavering honesty, even when honesty wounds. For Carol, this isn't just information. It's validation that the hive mind really cannot lie, and that opens a door to her next, morally questionable move.
Heroin? Are you sure that's a...
Carol's dangerous curiosity. Enter the truth serum. Carol's next stop is Zosia's hospital room. She brings gifts, apologies, concern, small talk, but she also comes with a mission. She wants to know if the hive mind has discovered a way to reverse the infection. And because the hive cannot lie, Zosia's silence becomes an answer. There is a way, and Zosia isn't allowed to share it. This moment hits Carol harder than she expects, because if there's a cure, then there's hope, there's control, there's agency. And the one thing Carol wants more than anything in this world is the freedom to remain human, thorns and all. But instead of thinking this through rationally, Carol goes spiraling into desperation. She marches directly into a pharmacy and asks for heroin. The hive mind pharmacist, helpful as ever, gently offers a selection of opioids instead. Carol flushes it all. What she really wants is Sodium Thiopental, truth serum. Her plan is terrifyingly simple. Test it on herself first, then on Zosia. Carol's self-experiment is easily one of the episode's most raw and honest scenes. Watching her unravel on camera as the drug strips away her defenses reveals everything she's been trying to hide. She hates the hive mind. She hates their forced happiness. She's not in love with Zosia the way Zosia hopes she might be. She misses Helen so fiercely that it swallows her whole. There's no mask, no defenses, just unfiltered grief and anger. And for a moment, Carol sees herself clearly. But instead of stopping there, she takes the next disastrous step.
Is it something one person can do? No.
The betrayal, what Carol does to Zosia. Carol is tired of being the vulnerable one, tired of being the last human surrounded by people who believe they know what's best for her. So she finds Zosia, the one hive mind member who has consistently shown her compassion, and she decides to drug her too. Under the guise of taking Zosia outside for fresh air, Carol slips Sodium Thiopental into her drink. Zosia, already recovering from the last accident Carol caused, is in no state to be drugged. Yet, Carol pushes. She asks again and again for the cure. She becomes aggressive, frantic, insisting that Zosia must give her the answer. But the hive mind cannot lie and cannot betray itself. So Zosia is trapped between physical distress and emotional conflict. Her heart begins racing, her breaths sharp. Carol doesn't understand what she's doing to her until it's too late. Zosia goes into cardiac arrest. For the hive mind, whose emotional stability is shared, Zosia's pain echoes outward. Members immediately flock around them, sensing the agony. Carol panics, handcuffs herself to Zosia, using the restraints from the police car, demanding that they not take her away. She screams that she has the right to know, that she must hear the truth, that it's her life and her agency on the line. But the darkest twist, the hive mind isn't trying to take Zosia from her. They're trying to save her life. And then comes the coldest line of the episode. They won't intervene if Carol doesn't want them to. They would let Zosia die for Carol's comfort. The horrifying purity of this moment breaks Carol. She lets them help, but by then, Zosia's heart is failing. She's been through too much. The earlier explosion, the emotional intensity of the hive, and now Carol's experiment. The episode ends with a terrifying ambiguity. Zosia might not survive, and if she doesn't, Carol will have crossed a line she could never uncross.
What you're trying to do to me now, make me just like you, even though you know I do not want that.
Ending explained the collapse of Carol's moral ground. The final moments of episode 4 show us the collapse not just of Carol's connection to the hive mind, but of her identity. She wants to protect humanity from losing its individuality, but at what cost? Every action she takes is framed under agency, yet she strips Zosia's of hers without a second thought. She lies. She manipulates. She harms. Carol becomes the very thing she fears. Someone willing to override another's autonomy for what she believes is the greater good. That's the tragedy of this episode. In a world where everyone shares one mind, Carol's individuality stands out not as a strength, but as a destructive force. And as Zosia's life hangs in the balance, Carol is forced to confront a new, terrifying truth. Sometimes, being human is not the moral high ground. Sometimes it's the danger. And now Carol must live with what she's done.
Way to reverse it? The joining?
Our nerdy thoughts. Thanks for watching, everyone. Pluribus just keeps getting darker, richer, and so much more complicated. And episode 4 might be the most devastating yet. If you're as hooked on Carol's spiraling choices and the Hive Mind's unsettling honesty as I am, make sure you stick around, because this story is only getting more unpredictable from here. If you enjoyed the breakdown, hit that like button, drop your theories in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite shows. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.
I interfere! Back away from us!
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.